Christian, can you hear me? All right?
Is on mute.
Yeah.
So you were happy to leave.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, we can hear you. Would you be able to promote Matt as well to be panelist?
We'll do that, and I was doing a sound check on the speakerphone, which is nice and loud, which is good for most people in this room here.
Perfect.
So we're just getting everybody promoted into the meeting, so everybody can stand by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
As soon as I get the green light.
Yeah, you can start the meeting, Mr. Chair.
All right, I will report.
We will be recording.
Yep. Okay, great. Super. I think we're ready. So, we're gonna start the December regular meeting of the Needham Housing Authority Board of Commissioners and the High Rock Homes LLC Board. And I'll start by calling the roll. Reg Foster's here.
Jim Flanagan is here. Jeff Engler is here.
No, I think Janice goes next. What's our order? We have
Janice goes before me.
Janice, are you there?
You're on mute, Janice.
That's why
I'm gonna unmute.
I know my place, right?
And well, it's a sort of a sound check. Everybody's here too, but you're right. That's right. You two someday will be chair of the Needham Housing Authority.
Well, you're in trouble.
In a hurry, yeah.
Janice, we can do spelling correctly. You're on mute.
So send her an invitation to unmute. What happened to us tech support person?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Janice is here. Now we can. Amanda, I think you're next to.
Oh, Amanda Berman is here.
And Jeff, are you here?
I already said it. I can say it again.
Well, I say for the record that if we can get it down to, like a rhythm, like calisthenics, it saves about 10 or 15 minutes on the meeting, because we have to vote on everything by roll call vote here. So I declare that we have a quorum. I also note that this is a virtual meeting as permitted by the governor. And the open meeting law amendment that was signed on March 28, 2025. And I note that the meeting notice and agenda was posted at the town clerk's office on December 5th, setting forth the date, time, and place of this meeting. So we are called to order. I've got a couple of announcements from the chair. One is that we have guests here tonight, the Cambridge Housing Authority Development Partners. And so with our usual protocol, we'll probably take them first, but even before resident input, because usually the residents have a lot of want to hear, and want to have to say something about what they're reporting about the Seabeds project.
Sure.
And secondly,
Board meeting.
said I got myself double booked tonight.
I have a.
Jan, we can hear you. Just want to let you know, right now when you were talking there. And
I apologize. That was the Jessica Reese.
no worries.
She'll call me back.
Okay, I got myself double booked tonight. The Community Preservation Committee meets Wednesdays and they're at 7 p.m. And we do have an application before them, and so I'm going to leave at 6:45. And hopefully the meeting will be done by then, otherwise I know I have my picture, sort of the cleanup, sort of picture can come in on the ninth and finish out the game.
6:45 sounds better.
Yeah, 6:45, so just in case
But I got your back.
there, okay, so.
Somebody set the alarm.
Yeah, really. With that, let's, Matt, and we have Christian Abney here as well, Matt Zajac. We're going to go to agenda item F1, Seabeds Way Preservation and Modernization Project, take it out of order. So they don't have to sit here all evening, listening to all the rest of the stuff we have to do here. So Matt, the floor is yours, or Kristen.
Everyone, thank you for having me. Matt Zajac, Cambridge Housing Authority. I'll just say, for those of you who haven't met Christian, he's our project manager. He's the on-the-ground face that a lot of the residents interact with, and he does a great job helping us to get closer to closing. So, I am working tonight off of the update that is in your board packets, and the first section on the update relates to HUD repositioning activities. So this is the work we're doing to switch from federal public housing.
Excuse me, can we put that up on the screen? Because we have people in the room who haven't seen that.
Absolutely.
You got screen share available to you?
I do need to have it available to me, Cheryl. If you could.
Just do allow there. Okay, you should be good.
All right. Are folks able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So the
And
first
a little bigger, blow it up a little bit more here.
Does that increase the size for you all?
Not yet.
Give me 1 second.
Is this in the packet?
Yeah,
These documents? Thank you.
but not everybody has seen that, so I just thought it would be helpful if it was there too, right? That's good. One more notch. And
Right. Let's do one more. Thank you for bearing with me.
You know what page it's on in this?
I'll find it for you while you get started.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter, anything seems.
120.
120.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, we're good.
All right, great. So HUD repositioning, this is the work we're doing to switch from federal public housing to project-based Section 8 vouchers. We had a good win this month where we received back an updated rent comparability study. And this helps to show what payment standard the federal government will use. We got a more favorable payment standard than the last time we did this. And this is going to help us to leverage more private debt to fund the renovation than we had before. Really helpful overall in terms of making sure that we can fund the scope of the project. We executed proposals to do 2 additional studies of the existing conditions. So these are an environmental report and an updated capital needs study. For the residents who are in the room, you're likely going to see some site visits get scheduled in January. And one of those site visits is going to involve doing some testing, additional testing related to asbestos-containing materials. All the testing is going to be in accordance with all the rules regarding safety. And please know that the ultimate goal is to make sure that the project remediates that material 100%. The last thing to kind of focus on here is point D. We're working with our legal team in order to submit a request to HLC, the state agency that oversees public housing, in order to obtain procurement relief. And this will just let us hire the general contractor in a more affordable and timely way. The second section of sort of activities that we wanted to update you on relates to design. Over the past month, our architect, BH+A, has continued to work on construction documents. That's what CDs means in this section. We're going to keep working with them to refine that scope over the next month. A key thing to know about the scope is that at this point, we're really tailoring the scope of the project to what the budget is that we have available. So as we learn more about the cost of the work, things on the margins may fall in or out of what's in the project. We're going to be keeping the board and residents involved in those updates 100% of the way, and no changes have been made to the scope since the last resident meeting in any sort of permanent or official way. We just want to let you know that we've sort of entered the final stages of deciding what's going to happen in the project, and that's really exciting. Section 3 relates to our interaction with the town. We had a really positive update in this respect this week. Reg met with the town administrator to discuss the legal agreements, both around utilizing CPA funding for the project and an agreement to not pay real estate taxes. The outcome of that meeting was positive, and we think we're going to get those agreements signed up in the coming days. I'm going to switch down to section 4, which relates to relocation planning. So a significant update over the last month is that we applied to EOHLC, which is again the state agency that oversees public housing, for the ability to start holding vacant units as vacant at NHA's other properties. And what this is going to allow is for those units to be available as a relocation resource when it's time to start the Seabeds project. HLC approved that request. And so units can start to be held vacant as the agency sees fit. There's going to be a sister request that goes to HUD to hold units vacant in the federal public properties. So that would relate to the units that are at Seabeds and at Captain Robert Cook Drive and at High Rock. So right now, when those units become vacant, they won't be held as such. And we're hoping to submit that request to HUD soon. An update related to relocation timing planning. During the last board update, we indicated that we were hoping to hold the first relocation planning meeting in December. That's gotten pushed back a little bit into the first quarter of next year. And just to explain why we got pushed back a little bit, we were behind the scenes evaluating a different opportunity for relocation resources, and we needed a little bit more time just to know the answer on that question. We think we understand now what the picture is and are going to be able to schedule. Finally, section 5 deals with financing and the various sources of funding that we have in the project. I'm going to offer an update on a few of these. So first is B, our permanent loan. So our permanent loan comes from MHP, Massachusetts Housing Partnership. And as we mentioned up top with regards to the rent comp study, we continue to work with this lender in order to maximize their loan. We're trying to make sure that we're getting the most debt into the project in order to support the renovation, but that number is going to continue to fluctuate a little bit as we go through the underwriting process. Next, I wanted to talk very briefly about item C, which is a pre-development loan. The pre-development loan is planned to come from an organization called LISC, which is the Local Initiative Support Corporation. And what LISC offers is affordable financing for organizations in order to fund the expenses they have when doing projects until they actually get to start construction. We submitted an application for a pre-development loan for $400,000. And what that'll help to do is pay the costs of the architecture and CHA's work through when construction starts. And then that pre-development loan would be paid back by the other sources of funds that become available then. That application is in processing, and we're hoping to be able to bring the actual document to the board for approval in, I'd say, probably February. Overall, that provides the picture of the project at large. CHA and the NHA team are looking to work on an update of the overall PRI budget in the new year, and we appreciate everybody's attention, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna first ask the board some, do questions, and if anybody in the audience and online wants to, we'll do that as well. Just our new protocol because it's getting close here. But I wanted to just add a couple, three more things that I think might be of interest that we sort of maybe we take for granted. But number one is I don't think you mentioned the waiving of the building permit fees. You weren't at the meeting, of course, and it was also at that meeting that we did confirm with Katie King that that was good for this deal as well. I'm not sure how much it's going to be for this particular project, but it's tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for this kind of, yeah. And so, I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us to the town of Needham for stepping up to the plate, on those three items. They are on the agenda for next Tuesday, select board meeting for approval. Last meeting of the, year, and we need to have that all in place if we're really going to go to my next point, which is that, you didn't call it out, Matt, tell me if I'm wrong, but we still have visibility of closing this project in June of 2026. Which I'd like to say, everybody, probably some of people have heard me say this before, in municipal affordable housing terms, that's like tomorrow. How long it takes to get these projects done. So really kudos to the Cambridge Housing Authority and everything they've done to get us here. Let's see, I wanted to also just emphasize that this is, when Matt says we're cutting the scope down to the size of the funding, I wanted to sort of just reiterate that it's not chopped liver he's talking about in terms of the funding. The TDC right now for the project is weighing into just below, correct me if I'm wrong, doing this from memory, Matt, 21 million, I think, total development cost. And of that, a little around sort of 14 million is actual changes to the apartments and the ground and everything else, so if you do the multiplication on that over 46 units, basically each unit's getting a $300,000 plus or minus facelift, if we can pull this off. And, that's I see that as huge. I've had an opportunity to go into these apartments lately and, they really are tired and they need a refresh and, we need to do this. So, then, got that and that. Oh, I just wanted to also say, I had a chance, again, Matt wasn't at the meeting, but I had a little sidebar conversation with the town manager about the Stephen Palmer apartment building that's, also in play. And some people have asked me, from time to time, gee, couldn't that be used for temporary tenant relocation? And the answer at this point is no. It's sort of a theoretically good idea. But for reasons that are not public, it just won't fit into our time frame if we're trying to close on in June of 2026. So, the phasing, we'll be relying on what Matt tangentially talked about, our own resources and our own ingenuity for taking care of temporary tenant relocation here. So, those are the things I wanted to kind of add. Let me start with commissioner questions or comments or.
I had one, is it total tax forgiveness? Because pilot suggests a payment in lieu of tax.
Oh, it's a no pilot agreement.
No pilot.
No pilot agreement, yes. It's a pilot agreement that says no pilot.
Okay.
But it
I
hasn't
like
been,
no pilot.
it has not been written down. We have been paying pilot on Seabeds and Cook about $80,000 a year is the current amount. Nobody has any records of why or when that started, all the way back to 1980. There's been an all-point search and nobody, it's just something that we've been paying, and so this does cost the town a little bit of money. But they understand how hard it is to raise these funds, and if they can do that, it really helps the operations cost. Yeah. Anything else, Amanda, or?
I was just gonna ask about point A under financing. Matt, did you touch upon that? I apologize. The lender RFP?
Yes, so the lenders have been selected via an RFP, so that's how we selected Chase to provide for construction financing and MHP to provide the permanent financing. And we'll relabel this bullet for future month updates to you. The forward-looking business for this is that we will submit our formal application to Mass Development for the tax-exempt bonds that underlie the Chase construction loan in January.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else? Janice, do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Reg.
Okay, super. Let me Anybody who's attending virtually, put your hand up if you have a question about this, otherwise, and I'll get to you and let's just go around. Anybody in the room have any questions about the report? Yes, go ahead, Marla.
Just was curious about the solar panels. Is that something that hasn't been decided if they're going, because it's mentioned on the first page? That, I mean, I'm assuming they're gonna use solar panels in the new development.
Matt?
Or is this just for seabeds and they're referring to not putting solar panels in seabeds renovation? Or is that connected to the other project for Linden
So
Terrace?
this report is about seabed, but go ahead, Matt. Go ahead, Matt, what's the status of our solar panel objectives for the renovation here?
I think the solar panels are a really great example of how we're just working right around the edges of the scope to confirm we have the right picture for closing. Right now, the solar panels are part of the scope and that they're going to happen. But that's an example of the sort of thing that if we ran into any sort of hiccups of our budget, so say our general contractor bidding was higher than we anticipated, the solar panels might come out of the scope because they're something that's a nice to have, not a need to have. So right now, in scope, but the type of item that might be tinkered with if we run into budget hiccups.
And I mean,
Utility payments for tenants, I mean, would they have to?
it doesn't change that at all. So that, yeah, but I wanted to add to Matt's comment that nice and that had or need to have is it in the eye of the beholder and how passionately one feels about that sort of thing. But what I can also say is it's something that can be added later. In other words, if we need to defer that so we can get to close in June because we don't have enough money or something, we can, there's nothing to prevent us from adding them a year or two later and find some new money to do it here. Yes.
Good question. Do you guys get any kind of line of credit from, that could help out in some of this stuff from any of the investors?
So do you hear that, Matt?
Anybody in equity,
Here, the question is, do we get lines of credit from some of the banks or other funding sources?
So we don't get a line of credit. So a line of credit is great when you can get it because it allows you to, with minimal fees, access the money you need to pay expenses like architecture. In the case of this project, the way that we're covering those costs as we go through the pre-development is that pre-development loan that we're applying for from the organization called LISC. And while there are costs associated with that loan, particularly interest on it, it's at a more affordable rate than you would get out on the sort of private market. LISC is a community-oriented organization, so they're giving you a bit of a deal in terms of how much the money costs to borrow and use.
Does this thing fluctuate with the rates going up or down?
The rates are fluctuating a fair amount. I think generally speaking, they're on a downward trajectory right now. One thing that we do in our budgets is we always build in a buffer on the interest rates. So the budget that we have always is over budgeting a little bit on interest because we want to make sure that we're covered if something happens and interest rates spike.
So it's not fixed? The rate?
So
Once we
go ahead, Matt.
once we actually borrow the money, it's fixed.
But right now it fluctuates and I don't even know what the Fed did this afternoon.
No.
Cut rate.
All right, well, that's a good thing, if they're doing that. But we won't know what the final interest rates are until we actually close in June, and whatever they are then is what they're going to be. So that's what Matt's trying to say. We try to overestimate it, right now, and as opposed to having the opposite problem in May 25th, so. Sharon, do you have anything that you want to add from a staff point of view,
No,
Jeff?
I do not have.
Okay, great.
I'd like to know what percentage of the project is gonna be privately funded. Is there a percentage yet on that? If you're using private funding?
Do you hear the question there, Matt?
That's a great question. I can do the arithmetic for you right off the bat. I would just need a minute to pull it up, but it's a pretty significant portion of the project is funded by private sources, over 50%, and then the balance of it is coming from these sort of like state soft sources that we've won over time.
So it's over 50%.
Yeah, it's a conventional mortgage like every property owner has, and it's, it's secured by the revenue stream that comes in. So it's not the kind of situation we've been in before. No. And then, that does remind me that I should say, the tangentially related is, there's a CPA grant agreement that we put in, we reported on last month, of nearly $800,000. That's been accepted and by the CPC and town council has said that is an eligible grant application based on what they've had so far. So that is progressing through the normal CPA grant approval, consideration and approval process. Like I said, the CPC meets tonight, but not about this. And that kicks off in January and concludes in March, and then goes to town meeting in May for final approval. Any other questions for Matt? All right.
I have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that, Janice. Go ahead.
Okay, this question is for you, Matt. If the money doesn't match up come June 26th, what else, if anything, is on the chopping block? Other than the panels?
Yeah, great question. So the project has built into its cost of work several what we refer to as alternates, and these are things that, depending upon how much the final bids are from the contractor, they can come in or out. So the things that are the main alternates, and it's not to say that these are 100% the things that would happen or not happen, but they're big variables, are repairs to the balconies and porches, a potential different location for the new heat pump, where we've been talking about, instead of putting it in the existing window, creating a new small window to put it in, having electric vehicle chargers on the site, and the extent of roof repairs that are done. So those are the sort of like big buckets of variables that might be impacted. And then there's also smaller things that could be tinkered with around the edges. So like, for instance, how many lights are installed in a particular unit. That give you the big picture?
Yeah, it does, and it's scary.
I just want to emphasize though, and I appreciate the question, so that right now, my expectation is that all of those things, or sorry, that with the exception of the electrical vehicle chargers, that those items are all in scope and will be funded. We are just alerting everyone of how the process works, so as we continue to move towards the finish line, there aren't any surprises. But right
And
now, we've
it
got
should
all the
also,
budget sources we have in order to do that project with those things included.
and again, it's just a heads up. Right now, we just are getting at the end of this week, the 50% done version of the construction documents. And then following that in a week or two is our cost estimator goes in there with more detail of what is going to be done. And then updates the cost estimate, and that goes until, we get 100% CDs, which is, I think, scheduled, by February. And then we update the cost estimate again, but that's still not the cost. Because then that all gets put out for public bid, competitive bid, the bids come in. And then we know what the actual cost is going to turn out to be. So nobody should get excited about it now, other than we're all learning about this kind of process. And we're trying to be as transparent as possible and not be at a point in April when we evaluating the bids and you said, oops, something whatever, it could even be interest rates going back up, it wouldn't have, may not have anything to do with inaccurate cost estimates, but if interest rates go back up to where they were a year ago, that's gonna be a problem, but just stay tuned right now. Nothing, I take a lot of, Matt and his team and the whole Cambridge Housing Authority Development Office have done this many, many times over, and I think they believe in the principle of, under promising and over delivering. Did I get that right? Yes, I sometimes do get it backwards. He wouldn't say that if he didn't feel at this point comfortable saying that. That's just comes with the. Jim does this in his consulting business as well. Jeff does this in his life as well here. And the community, and the Metro West Community Collaborative Development does it here, so.
Can I also make a note slash kind of throw a question out to Matt? And that's, there's a lot of funding mechanisms that have yet to come online through the Affordable Homes Act, is my understanding. That I'd like to remain optimistic that even if, God forbid, things do have to fall off, that there are additional funds coming down the road that we can continue to go after to add to this project in later times. Not that there would need to be relocation, but EV car chargers is something that could, I'm again not going to speak for Matt, but that could be done after the fact, right? If it
Well, you can get a climate readiness award like we did.
Then that's in existence now. I'm saying there's.
Apply this right now and get it next fall is all I'm trying to say.
But what I'm saying in addition, Reg, is that there's even other funding programs that have yet to come online through the Affordable Homes Act that are going to release even more dollars to support projects like ours. So not to say that we're in the clear, but I think there's a lot of good coming that hasn't even been launched yet, that we will have access to support not only this project, but future projects.
Good point.
I thought it was a set 2.1 or $2.2 billion.
Well, they haven't handed it all out yet. It all goes over it goes for the next few years is what Amanda's saying. So, again, what we've learned, as we are all learning this process, is it evolves and until you get to that point of closing, when you have the money you need, you know what you're going to need, you have your bids and the general contractor, and a mountain of paper is signed and recorded. And that's when the project starts, and things are gonna evolve as opportunities present themselves and challenges present themselves, so.
Can I ask us one
Yeah.
quick question?
Sure.
When the general contractors, when the CDs, this 100% CDs go out for their bid, do they know what our preliminary budget is?
Matt?
We put a budget number in there, and they will have the opportunity to bid against it. In public bidding, we routinely get bids that are above and below that number.
I know you guys have a ton of experience with this, but is that advisable? Because in my experience, people will work to the number as opposed to giving you an honest bid. And what if they bid, $1 million under what our budget is, as opposed to if they knew the budget was 21 million, they'd back into, we're 21,100,000. I'm just wondering, I'm just curious as to the strategy of telling them what the number is.
Yeah, in the past, it's been required in a regulatory way. We'll definitely check in on whether it's a necessary item under the relaxed procurement that we're working to get approval for, and make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position possible for the procurement. I'll just add that, one step that we are taking in terms of the hiring of the GC in order to make sure we're getting the most reputable firms that aren't going to play games like that is we'll do a pre-qualification process where we ask interested bidders to submit their resumes and backgrounds so that we can knock out some of the firms that have a history of doing things like that.
Okay, so why don't we move on? Stay tuned. We'll get an update like this every month until June, when hopefully we will have a really good update. We'll see.
To the ground.
Yeah, yeah, keep your fingers crossed. All right, so we're going back to the beginning of the agenda and resident community input. So is there anybody in the room that would like to bring up anything else that's going
Thanks,
on?
Matt.
Thanks, Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice night.
And raise your hand online if there's anybody there.
Can I reserve my time toward the end of the meeting?
For what?
Or these, the only time that you allow people in the audience to speak?
For what agenda item?
Well, for any agenda item.
No, you can't.
How about the Sarah Burns letter? We're gonna have more input at that time.
What's Sarah Burns letter?
Sarah Burns letter from Cheryl Goslin.
Yes, if there's something germane, it's always, if there's something comes up in the amendment, you know, there are regulations that say that residents
Or
can.
just like reserve my time.
Yeah, you don't have to reserve anything. That's our standard procedure. I'm just saying, the general, we're just on the first agenda item. I'm talking about that one.
Well, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
So even if the monies, you know, you're turned down for the monies in February, the seabeds renovation, that's gonna continue regardless, because I know they're linked in some way. With the Faircloth units and whatnot, but if, let's say hypothetically, the funds you were turned down in February, or there's not enough funds in February, will the seabeds renovation continue regardless?
The seabeds is an independent track.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's gonna continue no matter what happens in February.
It's, yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, anybody else online there? All right, so let's move on to some of our more routine items here after all that excitement. We are on agenda item A, review and approve the NHA bill check schedule and check warrant of $382,956.89. I'm going to make a motion to approve that. Do I have a second? Any discussion on any of those items in your packet? Hearing none, I'm gonna call for a roll call vote. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Jeff Angler votes aye.
Amanda Berman votes aye.
Very good, and that passes unanimously. And now our A2, the High Rock Homes LLC bills schedule and check warrant of $18,685.18. I make a motion that we approve that document.
Second that.
Second it. Any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Jeff Angler votes aye.
Amanda Berman votes aye.
Great. Now we go to the consent agenda. So we have a number of routine items that we try to adopt with one vote, even though there are 6 items, because that would take us 10 minutes to do. So having looked through the board packet, any comments or questions or typos in the minutes or anything else?
Nothing.
Hearing none, I will make a motion that we approve the consent agenda that consists of the regular monthly meetings, minute meetings of November 19th, the special board minutes of November 13th, the fee accountants report through, I guess it's through 10-month report through October, the vacancy and work order report, the intense accounts receivable report, and 2 of them. So do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, and hearing no discussion, we'll call the vote. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Jeff Angler votes aye.
Amanda Berman votes aye.
Super. Okay, we're on agenda item C. Review and approve NHA private use of community room policy. Over to you, Cheryl.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The private use of community room policy establishes standards, requirements, and procedures for governing how NHA residents may reserve and use community rooms for private use or exclusive activities, meetings, events, or functions. The policy is designed to ensure safe, respectful, and appropriate use of community space while protecting NHA property and maintaining harmony within residential buildings. So I'm asking for your consideration this evening to approve this policy. You have reviewed it at previous meetings. And the use of the policy would provide a comprehensive and enforceable framework for residents' use of community rooms and promote building safety and harmony and support resident service coordinators and managing programming. I'm sorry, that's the take out that last sentence.
Okay, and you received resident input in constructing this policy as well.
I have not.
Okay. Right, any, comments from the commissioners or anything like that?
I've reviewed the policy. I think it's very well written. We haven't had a policy like this for the community room in quite some time. And I'm glad that we have this now because there's been some incidences that have taken place, especially in regards to some of the NHA staff with resident behavior. So I'm glad that we're going to have a policy, and I'm expecting the residents to follow it.
So Dennis, would you, as a resident commissioner, would you like to take the lead in making a motion to approve this?
Sure. I'd like to make the motion that we approve this well-written policy on the community room and spaces.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second from Amanda. Any further discussion? I will also just say again, I think we all sort of know this, but when we adopt new policies that haven't existed before, you know, we do our best to get it as right as we can the first time. But, you know, we always, you know, if necessary, it can be revisited in a month or two or at the end of the next year and do some fine tuning if we find that we've missed something or overdid something or so forth. So this is, I think, needed pretty urgently right now, and I certainly support it as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and call the roll. Reg Foster says aye, votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Jeff Bangler votes aye.
Amanda Berman votes aye.
Super. Okay, we're on to D, the RFP for independent public audit services, an update on what's going on there. Maybe you could start with, again, why are we even doing this?
Great. So just as an update, we have put out an RFP for public audit services because we've lost our current auditor due to our new fee accountant, CBITS. We did an RFP over the summer, early fall for fee accountant, which was CBITS, formerly Markham. Markham has been with the NHA for many, many years and has done a fabulous job of auditing services, has been very responsive to me, answering my questions, and very responsive to the board. CBIZ has taken on this new role as for accounting services and has submitted a proposal to us for which we approved, and they are on board as our new fee accountant as we speak. So that means we don't have a auditing services currently. And so this RFP covers that request. It's been posted on Combines, the Central Register, it's on our website. And it's going into the Hometown Weekly as well. So I think I covered my tracks in terms of getting this advertisement out. I think it's a good product. And we should be able to get some nice responses based on how it's being marketed. Wide spread of the net through Combine, Central Register, and there's another one blanking on it, as well as the Hometown Weekly. Yeah. So this was a result of a lot of hard work between Michael and I. And I'm open to any questions, Mr. Chair.
Any questions or comments? Amanda?
Just a question about what vehicles were used to advertise the fee accountant, and so are we doing everything, because we got a good number of responses for the fee accountant, correct?
No,
We got only two. So,
Me too.
so the answer to your question really is, what are we doing? The question is, what are we doing to make sure everybody knows about it?
Yes.
Above and beyond,
Is
right?
there another kind of,
So we have, so what you're legally required, to put in Combine and on, I'm just repeating it for everybody,
Yes.
I know you know this. And in a local newspaper, which right now we only have one left, And then what you do is you collect the names and identities through various, Rolodex contacts you have of firms that we want to make sure they know about it and it doesn't get lost in the Christmas season. And then we reach out to them and say, hey, just, in case you didn't notice this, and most firms do monitor Combines very closely. It's very easy to set up criteria so that you hear about things you're interested in. But we, just make sure that it doesn't escape somebody's notice because they're got the flu or whatever, so that's what we do.
so I guess my question is, are we doing that kind of affirmative outreach to a handful of other agencies from our Rolodex?
We will do that as much as we can,
Okay.
yeah. So, and if you have anybody in your Rolodex that you happen to know from your time at Newton, that should know about this, you're welcome to do the same yourself.
Okay.
You can't promote them or give them extra information that everybody else doesn't have, but making sure that they know it's there is okay. Yeah, Jim?
No, I just gotta double down on leveraging Mass Nero, and I always say that too, and because there are other public housing authorities are using auditors, so we want to make.
Well, CBIZ, for example, was our auditor, and then is another place we asked for informal suggestions. Also our law firm, Driscoll and Driscoll, they do numerous numerous legal services, numerous housing authorities, and so so it's not too hard to get the word out, but you do have to do it proactively, make sure somebody doesn't miss it. Great. The one other thing I wanted to add in the status report is that we need like we've had before, a steering committee, a selection committee to advise Cheryl and participate with Cheryl, and we are using Ian Tink again.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Okay. Okay, who are we using?
me and Michael.
Oh, Michael. Oh, yeah. Well, I forgot. We have a deputy executive director. Excellent. So, we talked, we can't have more than two commissioners, and I was going to participate. So I talked to our treasurer. This kind of falls in her bailiwick, I believe, and Amanda said that she'd be glad to be part of that subcommittee. It's not really an official subcommittee, but when we do get proposals in, it'll be me, Amanda, Cheryl, and of course, Michael here. So I just want to let everybody know that. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So that's it for status update. I just noticed that somehow it escaped us to put a status update on how CVEZ is doing for getting up to speed. That we should have a standing update, and I'm gonna just use my chairman's discretion to say, I think I see it in here in agenda item D, even if it's not written down on paper. How, is Seabed's on board and actually doing anything?
The contract is signed. I think I put a copy of it in.
No, I meant in actually getting up to speed and taking
so,
over.
Well, yes, they've got access to our systems, which
Mhm.
they've requested, and,
You had a kickoff meeting.
we had a quick meeting, sir.
No, I'm just, we forgot to put it on the agenda, so much else is going on here.
Yes, we did have a kickoff meeting, with Michael Guida and his staff. And very excited to work with him. That meeting went very well, I forget when we had it, it's a long
It's a
ago.
blur, yeah.
But Michael sent me a long laundry list of things that he needs to get started with immediately, and I started that process immediately for him. So he has access to HAPIS, CapHub, PHA Web. He will have access under Needham Housing Authority to HUD Secure Systems, where he'll be able to go in and do some work there as well. Banking, read only, so he's pretty, really amazing right off the bat in terms of organizing the, agency and making sure that they have everything that they need to get started. And of course, we're having our budget meeting with him
Mhm.
next week, so that's exciting.
So that's actually their first time they're gonna be doing something under their new agreement with us, taking over from.
Well, I
Neil
kind
Sean.
of disagree with that
Yeah.
because they're working now. Yeah,
Hmm?
they're
No,
working now.
No, to the board. I mean,
Oh, to the board,
we'll
I'm sorry.
see them next week
Sure,
for our budget meeting, right?
yes.
Okay, and I'm remembering also that, so remind me when we have, in our packet is the financial report to October from our old fee account. And when are they gonna take over that function?
January.
January,
Yeah.
okay, so that's just
Yeah.
asking you leading questions, because
No,
think
it's good.
we should remember that we need to do this each time. And also I remember being very we knew this from the proposal, but really seeing that they really know their way around PHA web.
Mhm.
So we have this sort of Ferrari of a management system
That's-
that we haven't been taking advantage of at all.
Mhm.
And that's probably gonna solve a lot of problems over the next year or so.
Yeah, it's gonna be very helpful, and they're gonna help us, which one of the things that Commissioner Flanagan wants, has been pushing us on is to do our ACH payments to all our vendors, to get them all on board.
What,
for
not,
ACH.
no check
And no
writing?
check writing.
Oh, goodness.
So they'll, that they've been doing it, and they're very familiar with the process, and so they'll be able to explain to us very clearly how.
Which I'm gonna pass this down around here, but remember that this may become obsolete, so you may miss it after a while here. The other thing I remember is they're working and looking at our chart of accounts and working hard to do a significant upgrade.
That's correct. And currently, our old fee accountant manages the chart of account. He has developed it and has assigned numbers to various accounts based on that development of his chart of account. And so that's gonna change. It's gonna be more the industry term, but the accounting numbers will be more industry related numbers.
Gap oriented.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think that will be extremely helpful to us in terms of reporting and having accurate, more succinct reports on our financials. So I'm really looking forward to it. It will mean a lot of work on my financial specialist end, that he will have to change how he enters accounting numbers and that kind of thing, but it's gonna be very streamlined and more proficient for us to operate that way.
And just since we did spend a lot of the meeting about the Seabeds project, that'll be the first one of our projects that is actually a completely different animal in terms of accounting for it, reporting on and everything else. than we've ever had before with our public housing programs. And so very timely that we're doing this. It can all be supported as what the president get through PHA web, if it's set up right at the beginning of 2026. And that includes a new part of NHA that has been there for the last 75 years, which is the NHA Development Corporation, which is a 501c3 entity, wholly owned and managed and controlled by the board and NHA itself, that will be part of what we put in place for the NHA Seabeds Way LLC, which will be running the show when the dust settles in 20 or 30 months from now. So very good time, very timely is all I can say. So, all right, let's add a standing agenda item for the next few months until we get on the other side of this transition. So,
Okay.
we have the executive director's report, starting with E1, the REACT inspections. Coming up soon.
Yeah, it's fine. So we, REACT, the HUD REACT inspections, REACT stands for, Real Estate Assessment, Center, REACT. And the last time Needham Housing Authority had a HUD REACT inspection was in 2023, I believe.
And what is
just the
it?
end of 2022. So, and we got a passing score of 89. So we were put in the standard performer category. And because of that, we haven't had to have an inspection for 2 years. That's usually the standard. So now HUD is developing this new program called Inspire, which is the national standard for physical inspection of real estate. And this model will replace, places a heightened emphasis on life safety, property condition, and resident health. We were informed in November that this was happening and it would be happening to us the following month. So we didn't really have enough time we knew it was coming, but we were not pre-warned or got notice from HUD to say you're next or anything. It just sort of fell in our lap. And we had to prepare. So what Greg and I did was engage a company to do a mock inspection of our properties. And they gave us a report on our deficiencies in our units. And with that report, we're trying to get ahead of preparing for the REACT inspection, the HUD REACT inspection. This company, US Inspections Group, actually inspected every single unit and went through all of our 130 federal properties and gave us a massive report of deficiencies that we're currently working on. So we've gotten a heads up, if you will, on staying a little bit ahead of the game. Now, once the inspections begin, inspired inspections begin, we will have 24 hours to address health and safety issues right away. So we'll have to create a work order and we'll have to show with pictures and a completed work order that those 24-hour deficiencies are addressed. And then they'll give us a timeline to address everything else, so usually within 30 days. So the first inspection will take place here at Seabeds Way on the 17th of December. Seabeds Way and Captain Robert Cook Drive, all 76 units will be inspected on the 17th of December, but with this inspection, they're not going to do every single unit. They'll pick and choose which units will be inspected. And then the High Rock Estates inspections will take place on Monday, December 22nd. And again, they'll do a sampling of units and give us the information on that. The Greg and our property manager will accompany the inspector. The inspector will go in 2 units. Residents have been notified, by the way. We've sent out a notice on December 1st to all residents that, okay, thank you for going through the torches of the dam with the mock inspection. The HUD react inspections are coming, so we're gonna get ready for this, and we explained to them in detail what that's going to involve. And we put postings throughout the developments to remind people that this is happening.
What about London Chambers? Are they gonna do any,
Yes, Mr. Martin.
No one realized.
Wait a minute, everybody. Hey, Marlene, would you say, I have a question, can I ask it now? Go ahead, please.
well, can I ask
No, you say to the chair, I have a question, can I ask it now?
a question? When
And,
can I ask it?
no, about Linden, does this apply to Linden Chambers? Excuse me. And so, yes, Cheryl, she has a question, does this apply to Linden Chambers?
No, Mr. Chair,
Why
it
is
does
that?
not apply to our state program. Our state program is inspected annually.
There's another inspection process.
Yeah, that happens in June, in the summer, and our staff, am I right, Greg? Along with Blair, goes into all 152 units and does an inspection of those
And
units.
that's why they're just looking at our 136
Right, this is not
federal
audit
units. Yeah.
inspection, not an EOHLC
Got it.
inspection.
Yeah, good question, excellent question, thank you. And go ahead and finish.
So I just wanted to, say that the scope of the inspection will include building exteriors, interiors, common areas, resident units, sites and grounds, life and safety, of course, as I mentioned. And this is the first inspection under this new Inspire model, which I like much better than the old model, because with the old model, the inspector came out, inspected the units, and you were scored. That's it. You weren't really given an opportunity to make some corrections and correct deficiencies. So this really gives us a chance to, a little more time to correct deficiencies and
And do a better job for our customers.
and do.
I know you're
a
tired
much
and I'm tired.
better job for our customers.
All right.
We love our customers
Let's,
dearly, and we wanna make sure that their units are safe and,
So,
free from hazards, so we're working hard at it.
so it sounds like a big fire drill. Do we have any questions, comments from the commissioners here? Janice, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't, Rich.
Yeah, I guess you've been through it before on the earlier
Oh,
react.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
All
Many
right.
times.
And are there any other seabeds or Cook residents here have any questions or comments about this? Great, well, thank you. It sounds like, it's just something that happens, so, hopefully, we'll come up with a good grade next time around, this time around as well.
Right, exactly, and I think we will, and then I have some post-inspection communications to both residents and staff, so I'll
Super.
keep you updated on that.
All right, so let's go on to the rest of your executive director's reports.
So the last thing in my report, to update you on, is just a draft policy on housekeeping policy, so this is, right in time with the react inspections. I think that this is a good time for us to be able to enforce this policy in light of the inspections, and we haven't done this in 4 years, I believe. We haven't really, and I don't think the board has an approved housekeeping policy. And so this really is a first. And it's needed. We haven't, it's been on my radar screen to do for a long time, but it's kept getting pushed back. Michael did a really great job of drafting this policy. And I think it's ready. to roll out. This is just for your review at this meeting, and hopefully in January, you would vote the policy, and we'll enforce the policy based on post re-app inspections. So we're going to inform residents of some of the things that may come up in the inspections regarding housekeeping. So this is really in good timing to have this in place.
Any comments or questions?
I have a question. Why is the policy not an addendum to a lease?
I don't know. Our lease was developed way in our current lease came out of the Quality of Housing and Work Responsibility Act under the Clinton administration in 1993, 96. You know, it came out and it was comment period, et cetera. And then the board voted the state form lease that both the programs use today, the federal and the state. So it has not been updated since that public housing reform legislation that came out in 1996 under the Clinton administration. This is a great question, Commissioner.
I mean, I don't wanna digress, but my thinking is, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an attorney, but a policy has less bite than a lease. And if this is an addendum to the lease and you violate the language, you're in lease violation, as opposed to just, I've violated this quote unquote policy, what's the big deal? And I'll vote to approve this, because I think we need to implement this, but I think eventually, same thing with, like, we have a parking policy. To me, and believe me, I'm a new commissioner, so I don't understand some of the legal particulars of being able to make additions. But things like that should be as an addendum. I mean, in the leases we have in my business, we have a lease, and then we probably have 18 addendums and attachments that are part of executing the lease, and those have real teeth because you're in violation of your lease, as opposed to some policy. I didn't really see what the ramifications are of violating it, other than you're notified that you violated it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a board approved policy, and I think we can certainly serve a notice to quit for violation of a policy.
We can.
But I love your idea about having it as a lease addendum.
Can I interject?
Go ahead, Janice.
Yeah, I recall when I moved in, reading my lease front to back, there is a housekeeping policy in there. I don't have the lease anymore, but there hasn't been an addendum to it. So I would, support Jeff's idea of adding it as an addendum, because I know there was a housekeeping policy.
So, Mr. Chairman, Cheryl, my recommendation would be, in the interest of time, we approve this policy, but I think we should, move towards, I don't know if talk to council or what, but think about this being a standalone addendum to the lease moving forward.
So my suggestion is we wouldn't have been approving it this time anyway, because we always have a draft policy, talk about it in public, and then come back the second time. And if we can, approve it. But sometimes it takes 2 or 3 more times before we get to something that is, is right as we're gonna get it. So I'm going to suggest, though, I think this is the second meeting in a row that you've made a similar suggestion. We had one like that the last time around too. And really, the bigger question has come out in this discussion is, not only from Cheryl, who's been here a long time, so also Janice. And I don't think we've looked at our leases that we use on the state side and the federal side. Sounds like for a generation, a decade or two. And I think that's kind of what you're raising, not that we bump into this question now 2 meetings in a row, but that maybe you go back to Jonathan and just ask his advice about this and bring it to the next meeting. Because like Jeff said, maybe there's some federal or state regulations that mean we can't do things that would, the way they would normally be done with a commercial lease. I happen to know exactly what Jeff is talking about, because my daughter moved into an apartment in Coolidge Corner, private, and I got to see what that lease had to say, and yeah, it had a boatload of policies, but they were all enforceable. Like if you don't follow them, there's some real teeth on right here, and maybe we can't do that. I don't know, but we'll find out.
And I did read the last paragraph, which does allow, if you do violate the policy, there is some enforcement and teeth. I just think it would probably be better policy, no pun intended.
Yeah.
To have it as part of the.
And then the only other thing I would caution here is, even though finally we have our deputy executive director on board here, so we have more capacity. All that capacity should be soaked up instantaneously with things that we already have on our plate. And looking at the lease is a really good idea, but we're also breaking in a new fee accountant, we're breaking in a new auditor, we're trying to get the seabed project going by June. And then there are little things like SNAP benefits not showing up, or the fire we had the other day, so I think we need patching things for now is maybe a good idea. I think redoing the lease and having a whole new set of addendums is probably gonna be a big task.
Like anything.
So I'm accepting your suggestion.
Put it, as they say, put it on the list.
Put it on the list,
Right.
exactly.
Put it on the list.
Well, and I know Cheryl, working with her enough to know that she's, this is near and dear to her heart.
Right.
Having a good set of clear terms and policies, however they are, is the secret of having everybody, happy communities as much as you can. So, all right, good.
Good.
Anything else on this? Let's see, the rest of it's placeholders here. Okay, so we've done most of agenda item F. Status update, preservation redevelopment initiative. The only thing I would add to this is F2 Linden Terrace Phase 1A redevelopment project. Our development partners, HSC and Peabody, Betsy Collins and Mike Mattis, came to the conclusion, working with us, Cheryl and so forth, that it was worth submitting a pre-application into the winter 2026 round. So that went in on December 2nd. And then there's another application deadline, I think it's December 16th or 18th for the other, there are two pieces of the big two one-stop pieces. One is the one I just talked about, which is really oriented around the tax credit funding and related programs. And then there's something called Public Housing Innovations, which is a state program that works together with that. And that deadline is coming up on the 18th, which would be what, next week. We're still working on that. We don't have an update. Unfortunately, because we all know this Faircloth unit, dependency we have here, that we're not expecting great things necessarily. And we may even get turned down at this pre-application stage, which will be, they'll get back to us in the first or second week of January. The deadline for the full application is in mid-March this year. But while we've got some kind of long shot things that we were trying to solve the missing Faircloth problem, we still haven't really got that locked down. But it's, the feeling is, let's let them turn us down because we're not ready, and we're still trying to make some of these Hail Marys come to pass, but they haven't yet. So that's that update. We did have a TCHOC meeting that Cheryl, I see we don't have TCHOC on here, but we had a TCHOC meeting on Monday. 2 days ago, feels like 2 weeks ago. And they approved every one of our reimbursement requests, so I think I'll just stop there, unless you wanna add anything
Well,
yourself.
we have more.
And we have more, yeah. But at least we seem to, Cecilia Simchak is kind of the principal town staffer there. And Cheryl really started to work out the kinks of the process of working together and making sure everybody has the information they need. And so that's taken us a while to get there.
Yeah.
And Cecilia's been great, so,
Yes,
yeah.
very patient and kind.
Okay, now we're at agenda item G. The board would note that they didn't get anything in terms of the consolidated packet together, and that's because I didn't have time to pull it all together. And there were some late stragglers in terms of people sending me stuff, and that it's just the way it is because things are so busy. So I'm gonna propose that we move this agenda item to next Wednesday's meeting. I do have everything now. And so we'll get that all out well ahead of time, so everybody has a chance to think about it. Even if I had imagined that I could find time to do it, I just don't think it's fair to everybody to get things at last minute. At a board meeting unless it's an emergency. And I think we can take care of this next week, so then we'll move agenda item G1, the 2025 Executive Director Performance Review Process and Schedule. Oh. Okay, so that brings us maybe to adjournment. Do you want to say anything, comments about these informational items that have been in the packet here?
I'm excited about our website designer being on board with Keep the Face. Really excited to begin that work. We have the contract for our fee accountant. The Springwell newsletter, I couldn't include it, technical issues. And then, the letter to Sarah Burns, Director of Mass Union, regarding the meeting that, regarding Marlene Costa's, appeal to Mass Union for, having been, in having had a informal discussion on removing her as a board member from the LCRA. So Marlene wrote a memo to Sarah Burns and CC'd me in that memorandum. I had not heard, I think he got his hands up. I had not heard any action from the president, and I needed to address the concern that Marlene raised in her memorandum to Mass Union. And so I wrote to Sarah, which you have a copy of the letter, for her advice and her comments on what's happening with the LCRA board. She responded to me immediately, and we had a very nice, long, hour-long conversation. At the end of that conversation, her goal was to reach out to Marlene and Jim and share her thoughts with them about what to do next. And I don't know if she's had a chance to do that.
No, I'm sorry, we're not having a dialogue here, we're just receiving a report. So talk to the board
Yes,
here,
exactly.
not to Marlene, I'm sorry, it's not fair to Marlene when you do that.
I know, I apologize. But you know, given the fact that everyone is so busy, I just can only imagine that she wants to get around to it. It's just our schedules are so hectic right now.
So you have a process in place.
Yes, we have a process in place and the ball now is in Sarah's court, and I'd like Sarah to reach out, as she promised, to Marlene and Jim to discuss again the appeal letter that Marlene Costa sent her regarding the activities of the LCRA president.
Mhm. So we have a couple of new board members, maybe three new board members here, and Janice is the veteran here, along with myself. So, I think at this stage, we read the letter. But again, we do whatever the will of the majority of the board members want to do, but I would just say at this stage, I think we want to make sure there's a process in place. And also I just want to say, we have a grievance process that we follow. Whenever any member of our community, can be staff members that work for Greg, it can be residents, it can be third-party contractors, where they can, enter into a formal grievance process. And that process, again, we don't have to go through it in detail here, but it basically says, okay, try to work things out informally. And then if it isn't, that doesn't succeed, anybody who has a grievance can appeal that informal resolution process. And that goes to a grievance hearing officer we have on retainer, who's a professional who does this, not just for ourselves, but other housing authorities. And then, that grievance hearing officer will investigate all the facts and circumstances and issue a report with all, that person, and the hearing officer will say, I decided that the grievance right, or the other party's right, or, or they're half right, and here are the facts, and I based it on, and we'll have a report. And then anybody who's in that process, if they're not happy with the outcome, can appeal it to the board. And then we would schedule a board meeting in public, by the way. This is not a private, behind closed door kind of grievance hearing because of the open meeting law. And, we would listen, we'd have the report, and all the, facts and circumstances have been, assembled before us, and the two steps before us. And we will invite everybody, it'll be noticed, and everybody can come, and we'll listen to what's going on, we'll talk about it ourselves, and then we can make a decision ourselves, based on the facts and the evidence, and the policies and the regulations too. And then if you happen to be a state resident in the state property, there's one more appeal step, which is, they're not happy with what the board has come up with, they can actually appeal it to HLC under state laws and regulations. On the federal side, there is no further appeal beyond the board. A discrepancy between the two. Hopefully, most appeals have been resolved long before you think you want to go to HLC here, because it doesn't do anybody good to have something go that long. So what we've done in the past is to receive a report like this that we have from Cheryl, and if we're satisfied that there's a process in place, in this case, it starts with Mass Union, given them what's going on. We certainly want it on our agenda for a status update, but it won't be to hear one side or the other. In fact, we don't want to do that, because we are an appeal body, and we want to not get involved with it, either as a group in a public meeting, or even as individual human beings who care, or concerned about things. So, if somebody contacts us and said, you really need to listen to my side of the story, the idea is, you guys sort of say, I'm sorry this is happening, I feel for you, but don't tell me anything here, because otherwise you're gonna have to recuse yourself from being part of that or third appeal step. So, does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Did I miss anything there on that, Joe?
No, there is really, the why the Mass Union is involved is because of the tenant participation regs that EOHLC has developed.
Mhm.
And so concern about governance and the democratic process. And so Mass Union, who gives advice to public housing tenant organizations across the state wants to make sure that that process plays out fairly. So
Let me just ask you a question. Actually, I just thought of. Have any of you heard of Mass Union? Do you know what they do? Why they exist? You know, what their history is?
I do not.
yes,
You know
so
what I'm thinking?
yes.
Are you thinking the same thing? I think that's actually, because we have new commissioners.
Mhm.
I mean, Janice certainly knows this, but I
Yes.
hadn't thought.
I
until-
know. Are we
Yeah.
gonna invite someone from Mass Union?
Well, let's figure out how to also get our commissioners up to speed. You know, because they wouldn't know, on, and the role that Mass Union plays and why they are such an important part of this. And, to speak briefly, tell me if I have this wrong, you know, they are a statewide association of tenants. Organizations, you know,
Advocates, tenant
adv-
advocates.
they're advocates, but they also, they represent, you know, they're sort of, and so they played a very constructive role for decades, as far as I know, to helping, first of all, they advocate the creation of tenants organizations in each one of the developments, state and federal, you know, because they feel, and I totally agree myself, that every housing authority is better if there is a, you know, strong and constructive, you know, tenants organization. And a lot of housing authorities or parts of housing authorities don't have it. For example, I would just say here, we haven't had one for a while at High Rock Estates, which I feel, I wish, I would somehow like that to change somehow. But there was one, wasn't there, a High Rock Estates one?
Well, Howard Estates is part of the federal
Yeah.
public housing tenant organization, which would have been Cooksbridge tenant organization.
But they don't participate, you know,
They
you know,
have a right to.
they have a right to.
Right, under the federal. They could be considered separate as well if someone's stood
Yeah.
up and asked.
But, you know, because they're over there and, you know, it takes a lot of volunteer energy to do something like this, you know. It doesn't necessarily happen organically by itself. So anyway, let's put that on the agenda or maybe get some, there's some, you know, even those, get the link to the Mass Union site out because it has a lot of good information on it. You could actually just sort of teach yourself.
Needham Housing Authority pays annually for residents to go to their annual conference. We donate money for their advertising book. And we support them as an agency very well. They've been in existence, I believe, since 1967. So they do, you know, when I was a resident, I was a member of the Massachusetts Union of Public Housing Tenants, and we would have our sportorama that we would attend every year, and we went to conferences. And when HUD, the director of HUD at the time, I'm drawing a blank on his name, during the Clinton administration, came up with the idea to reform public housing. HUD sent residents all over the country to trainings on that. And they didn't put us up at the Holiday Inn. We stayed at the Hyatt Regency.
Ooh.
And we went to Kansas City, Washington, DC. We went across the country getting training on public housing reform. And it really helped us to, you know, connect with other residents across the country, but more importantly, to bring it back to our agency, inform our residents and inform our board. So, and we did those, the reservations of those events through Mass Union. So they helped us to reserve hotels and schedule bus trips, train trips to these events. So they're very important. It was ran by Jack Cooper for many, many years. And he was the director, and the president was James King, Mr. King, from Fall River.
As
He
in Mel
passed
King.
away.
And Mel King
Great,
Institute, if you
great
get, this thing,
advocate.
that's who he is.
And I love the process. I absolutely love the process, and I felt that I don't want any resident I feel that it's a process that we have to continue to support and make sure it's played out fairly and democratically. That it's not one-sided, that it's a cross-the-board democratic process for everyone to participate in a fair way. And so, I want to ensure that happens with this agency, and that's my reason for reaching out to Sarah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So is, the, Sarah Burns, is she the hearing officer?
She's the new director of the Massachusetts Union of Public Housing Tenants.
And that's different from our hearing officer, the
It
grievance
is,
hearing
yeah.
officer.
Does
Okay.
that something exist just for tennis organizations in the state?
Okay, so when will the hearing officer be engaged?
Well, and so first you go through that process. And then, you know, if that doesn't result in a, you know, everybody being satisfied with the outcome, which of course is what we want, you know, somehow, then you can, you know, file a grievance with the executive director and go from there. And, you know, everybody's got a copy of the policy and see what the steps are there. So, but, let's put it on the agenda next month.
Sure.
Let's hope, knock on wood, I know it's a busy Christmas, you know, holiday season, but, you know, everything is resolved by then. And we'll get an update. And
Ask a quick question regarding the Mass Union from her.
only a point of information question.
Point of information is normally the certificate would be visible in the community room when the LTO joined this Mass Union, which we did in the past. When I was present, we always posted it.
Mhm.
I haven't seen that. I'm wondering if the LTO even joined, they have to pay an annual dues fee. But did they join Mass Union?
So why don't you take that offline with Cheryl, because I'm, you know, and, you know, if we supposed to have something on the wall, we'll put it up on the wall.
We've got a couple of people that have their hands raised.
No, I'm just thinking that, this is an informational item on here, and we can't, we can put something on the agenda next time. But this letter just came in, and, I just wanted the board to know what was going on here, so, and I'm just looking at the clock, because I gotta run out the door. Do you want to take over the meeting, or shall we adjourn it? I'll leave that up to you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yeah, I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Second from James, and, I'll call the roll. Reg Foster votes aye.
Jim Flanagan votes aye.
Janice Bennett votes aye.
Jeff Angler votes aye.
Amanda Berman votes aye.
All right, and we are adjourned. And I'll go to my next
Lucky
joyful
you.
meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Well,
Reg.
I hadn't realized that we were gonna have this problem when we